So thank you. I'll let her finish.
Now for the really important things. If there's a fire drill, exit these doors and go out the front of the building. If you need to use the restrooms, they're on the front of the building. Do not, if there's a fire drill, go through the parking garage. I also want to just say Koyana for coming. Ossie has been traveling a ridiculous amount. Last week I was a little perturbed that he did not answer my emails. Like, I had questions. I'm from the state. I have forms to fill out. I have questions. And he wasn't answering my email. Well, he's been to a 10-day artist in residency
with Kajung and Pamyo. Yep.
With Kajung and Bumra in New England, working with students. You've been to Good News Bay just yesterday. And so I forgive you for not answering the emails in a time that I thought it should be answered. Okay. I also want to just, besides saying thank you, Koyana, for coming, I wanted to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Tlingit people. This land has been stewarded by Tlingit people for millennia. And we're grateful to be here. Grateful to work here, grateful to be here, grateful that they are patient with us. So without further ado, I guess I would just like to say thank you again for coming. And here's another very important part. Funding for this activity tonight was provided by a new little partnership between the Alaska State Museum and the SHPO's office, the State Historic Preservation Office, with federal funding from MARAD, which is a federal agency that passes federal funding from the scrapping of the fleet through state SHPO offices out into nonprofits who are doing good projects in various states. So we're grateful for that funding to bring Ossie here, and with gratitude to the Tlingit people whose land we are engaged on tonight. Koyana again for coming, Ossie, and now the podium is yours.
Yes. So, to Koyana again, as well as to our Tlingit brothers and sisters who we stand on, I am grateful to be here, continuing to maintain my friendships with the people that I see quite often, and happily surprised, like Frey here, that, that we go back quite a way back. And the subject about the whaling suit. I will put a short little narrative about this. And I was finishing up on my way over in the air. I was finishing it up this morning just before I landed, and I will walk you through how a whaling suit was made, in reference to, as I called it, whaling suit as told by Yupik, the Siberian Yupik on St. Lawrence Island, as well as Far East Russia, and our Yupik ancestors, and the present. And the circa is God knows when. It was like a long time ago. And presented by me, Aassanaaq, Kairaiuak, who is a Yupik artist. And the materials you would need would be the qiluk, which is the whale, walrus gut, intestines, and then you would need the yoluk, which is the sinew tendons of the animals. Like this one example was when they would catch belugas, they would cut the back of the neck and down on the tail, and then they would pull them out, and then dry them. And then taphnat, which is the beach grass and the blades. Mingkun, which is a bone ivory needle. And the And those needles were made in respect to, however size they needed. And then they probably used what are those hard chisel points to make holes? Awl. Yeah, that's what they probably used for the thicker skin. And then, which is and then the wooden visor. This is putting up all the pieces, including the accessory. The wooden visor, which was adorned with ancestral marks or designs, probably made from driftwood that came from Guskukwak on the Kasikum River or Guichbak or the Yukon River system, or elsewhere that washed up either from the other side of the Imachbik, known as the Bering Sea. And the Gapun, or which is the spear, would be like the Duluk. The tip would be either walrus ivory or something that's durable, wooden driftwood, wooden shaft, fastened together with the skin or sinew wrapping, and then a smaller gaff, with duluk point as a hook. You've seen those kayaks, and then there's a metal thing. That's what to pull themselves up onto the ice floe in the springtime, or somebody from a springtime, they would hook them up like this and pull them up in the springtime, which the hunting just ended for seal hunt. I tell people this, when in our school system, when they would talk about us, about Native Americans, they use past tense words like long ago back then they used to do this, they used to do that. And that gave me that impression like I don't exist anymore. And my mind was fighting. It's like, what the heck? I'm still alive. I still speak. I still dance. The only thing that changed is how I dress. That's the only difference, and so that's how I looked at it. So the prep work for these things takes time to prepare. Tapchnak, which is the beach grass, need to be dried in the sun and bundled together and put away until it's time. Kam kamigak, or upnachkakami, in the springtime. Harvest season of the walrus or maklach, the bearded seal, walrus's azvak, intestines, the content, which was the anak or the feces, is first taken out and washed out with water nearby. Then the muscles are separated between the lining and cooked and eaten, and they're delicious if you ask me. And then to treat them, for the intestine, we used human urine. My brothers and I would pee into this 5-gallon bucket that is full of intestine, and that's how we treat it. There's something magical about it, something about the ammonia. And then they're blown up, long strands, and hung outside to dry. And then cut up and split and rolled and put away. I've seen my mom do this growing up. And then that yorluk, as I was telling you about the beluga, where, as well as other animals, where they got the sinew. The sinew, to some of you who are out in that area, the sinew backbow, I would consider myself, pretty strong when I was younger. I tried to pull it, but I couldn't. Then that's when I was like, gee, these ancestors are tough. They're stronger because it was a tough, healthy lifestyle, as I would put it. And then, these were braided, carefully split when dried and braided to make very strong and durable thread for stitching hides, to make them. And then used for sinew backbowing of whatnot. And then Minkun, the bone ivory needle, was used to, go through that. And in between these seams are the blades of grass to waterproof it, to keep it watertight. And then the story of this whaling narrative comes to play. By chance, I had the great fortune to be in the presence of a relative, Kairaiuak, who happened to be Rita Blumenstein, or Pitka, Uyuhako younger brother from Dununuk or Tununuk, Alaska, Nelson Island. He was quarantined with a Yupik or St. Lawrence Island Yupik from during the tuberculosis epidemic. I think it was in the 60s or 50s. Somewhere most likely in Seattle or here, or in Anchorage or somewhere. And he noticed and he asked his roommate, Jao, what are these on your arm, on your wrist, tattooed like a wrist? And then he said, well, you ask because you don't know. Now let me tell you my role in this society. So he's in a suit like this with a visor, tightly close so that it won't get loose or anything. So it's wound tightly to his head, covered over with the hood, and wound up tightly around the wrist, around the neck, and even on the feet. And then he sits at the bow of the Angyapik, or the skin boat, where at the bow, and on his hands he has a jabber and that smaller gaff. And when they get to the whale, right next to it, he jumps off of his Angyapik and lands on the whale and hooks on with his gaff and starts riding the whale. As soon as he lands, he starts jabbing at the blowhole as much as he can, and when he dives, he dives with it. And he does this whole thing, and when it surfaces, he gets up and then starts jabbing, and he dives with it. And then he said, the visor creates this air pocket in front of his face, and it breathes like you and I are breathing right now. As he was telling me the story, I was like, literally, I was just so blown away by this revelation. I was just like, wow, it was like, wow. And he does this the whole entire time. And he said, the only time I get off of the back of the whale is when I kill it. I go back into the Angyapik. And he said, you see these 14 tattoo marks right here? This is how many I caught whale. This is how many whales I caught like this. And that consumed my mind. Like when I'm blown away with such revelation like that, I think about that every day for a month straight. I just go like, wow. The things our ancestors had to do just to survive. A tough, healthy lifestyle, as I would call it. And so I told my father about this, and then he replied, that's what we used to do a long time ago, but we didn't write it on the whale. When the whale would turn its side, we take a shaft and drive it straight to the heart. And so And I heard another story from another gentleman. He said this, an Inupiaq man, and he went off to school, you know, to learn a different mindset. And he came back, and then his father would tell him stories about that. The whale gives itself to the humans for. And he used to think it was hocus pocus, like he didn't believe it, because he didn't live it. So how many years he would tell the story about that. And finally, he was given a chance to participate in an actual harvest, whale harvest. And he said that the whale did indeed turn its side on its most vulnerable side to the whaling crew to let it harvest equally. And you know, with the explosives that they have on the projectile, they do that, and about a minute or two later, and it go right into the heart and kill it that way. He came back to his father and he said, "Father, I am so sorry. I never believed you all this time." And he had tears down his cheek. He said, I am so sorry I never believed you. I saw what you told me happened. And they hugged for a while. They hugged for a while, which is, you know, emotional and whatnot. But the other thing about these is that what's missing all too often in the written book is the human element, as well as the spiritual element that's attached to the whole entire picture. And there's many stories to fall back on within that relationship. How we carry ourselves in this world, and that world is watching us. And when they catch, they distribute the whole whale to the whole community, because the importance of maintaining the community together, and the spirit of the animal, like whale, will likely come back to that individual. When I go deep netting with my children, which will happen soon, on the Kasilaf, of our first batch of catch, I always give it away. The next time around, when I go by myself, the catch is easier. Like they just come to my net, and it's that relationship. It's the world. I tell people this. How we do things, how we learn the language, did not come from us like you and I talking. But it came from being actively engaged in the world we were nurtured by. We have words like to give deference and respect to something out there. It did not come from us. It came from out there. And maintaining that relationship with the whale guarantees our survival, or any other resource, guarantees that relationship which we must maintain even to this day. We were in Iceland as Bamyo a number of years ago. And one of our hosts was like, he was saying, you see the roads right here that you see on big, wide open, flat space? They were like windy. So some years ago, when we first started building roads, what seemed like a safe construction site, somebody would have a freak accident and die for no reason. And one of their gifted human beings, Now, when I talk about gifted human beings, there's no race relations. It's just a human condition. Some of us can understand math. Some of us will pick up things quicker than others in so many different facets of life, like reading, writing, whatever, in our daily lives. But to push the envelope, that other world, some humans can sense or see, hence the term, some see the walking dead or not, those people walking on the other world. One of their gifted individuals in Iceland said, it's the little people. Aassanaaq, the little people. Like, what do you mean? They're defending their home. That's why the accidents take place. So from that point on, that revelation, that country was forced to reckon with that world. Where when they're going to build a road, they send that gifted person to that area to negotiate the terms, to guarantee that they build the roads around their homes. And we've seen those roads where they're just windy, on a big, wide open, flat space. And when they told me, I was like, about effing time. Because they were forced to reckon with that reality. That, so going back to the whaling suit, what I'm trying to paint a complete picture is these things didn't happen overnight. It had to, I was thinking they most likely started with mucklucks and the seals, and where they would see them, make them completely waterproof, and when they started harvesting the whale, they were able to have bigger pieces like this and piece them together. And then those designs on the side has to do with probably family lineage and some semblance of spirituality of their place in the world where they come from. A little hint of that part is that with the whaling crews as of now, like up north, each have their own flags, what they call the coat of arms. So to identify which crew that is. And they follow a specific protocol when the family, the captain of the wife, they take, certain elements, but they give the rest of the way to the community. They have to follow a certain protocol, and those I cannot begin to tell you. And I know that there's secrets out there that we have yet to uncover. It's up to them. And I've stumbled across individuals like that just told me, I cannot share you these secrets. And so there's a lot more that we don't know that we have yet to uncover. But my point of this conversation is that we, for one, we all have indigenous roots. We all came from somewhere, if you think about it that way. We all have the same wants. We all have the same needs. We just express it in different ways, especially with our languages. And I call this, let me go back a little further. You guys ever hear of a guy named Thomas D. Aquin, or Thomas Aquinas? Yeah. 700 years ago, a philosopher. He tried to hint his superiors Because at the time, which unfortunately we're here to this day, they said, let's go save Jerusalem from these heathens, devil worshippers, pagans, you name it. He said, maybe, wait a minute. Maybe if we take the time to understand their ways, their language, we will begin to understand the great mystery, the unknown. On our Bamio logo, we have a solid dot in the middle and a circle with a power symbol. That solid dot in the middle represents the unknown. Not necessarily good or bad, it's just something that we have yet to uncover about the world around us. And said Thomas Aquinas said, when God created the universe, we call him Samyo in our language. The creator, Samyo. When God created the universe, everything was good, and I say still good. That he decided to share his love and goodness to the human species, not specifying a race, but humans in general. But because of God's love and goodness is so immense and great, that one single species cannot, I repeat, cannot represent it all. That if one lacked in one area, another species somewhere else made up for it. So when you put it all together, it's all good. In another sense, we became a reflection of divinity in our own way. And those are the kind of conversations I think that we need to sit down and have a healthy human discussion about how we treat each other. So thank you for this time. And I hope it was insightful and enjoyable, as I find this fascinating as well. Oyana. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
I've got a mic to pass around if anybody has a question, and I'll run around to you.
I have lots of questions, but I know we need to go. But why do you think there are so few known still? What I heard is that there's 4 in the world that are known. There's one from Greenland. There's this one over at the Sheldon Jackson Museum with the polar bear tufts down the sleeves, and the one here at the State Museum from Nome area. And then maybe a more contemporary one, but why aren't there more known?
That's a great question. I think it was more like the contact has a lot to do with the continental, the shift, and we had to put that stuff away because of the contact, which yeah, that's my only guess I could think of. Yeah.
It became more efficient as contact happened, and we had better tools instead of writing the whale down.
Yeah.
I'm saying we as Universal, but instead of writing the whale down, we used the newer tools to kill the whale.
That also, definitely great point. That's a definitely great point. Yes.
I guess I'll ask a question. I've been studying this for a couple of years. I always thought the sinew was traded, right? We traded with our Athabascan counterparts to get like sinew from like caribou.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time I've actually heard where we were, and I always suspected there was belugas being harvested on the north slope and around the corner. But I never understood that the value really was in the tendons on the beluga. And I guess the next question, there's 2 questions here. Do any of the people ever harvest narwhal? There's been a little bit of narwhal that's come around the corner, but I was curious about that as well. So I guess the first question is, when the suits were made, when like the umiaks were made, was it always sinew from another marine mammal? which is, you were talking about splitting the tendons? Or was it traded for, like with the Athabascan? And then the
Either.
second question, and the other question is about the narwhal, but.
Okay.
But
We don't have narwhal in our world, but in Greenland they do. And then I would say for the second question about the sinew, either trade or piecing the sinew together from various animals. That's my, because you can braid them in and then they could, it'll still stay together. Thank you.
Just a second.
Waka.
Hi.
Thank you. I just want to say really quickly, Gilchish, thank you for coming and sharing your knowledge with us. This is really exciting to learn and really appreciate you sharing your time and wisdom with us. I have a quick question. So we harvest seal down here, and we make our seal oil a little differently than you guys do up there. We kind of like to boil it. And the whole time I'm watching this, we don't like to get that oil on us because it'll never get out of the clothes. It's just stuck there. So I'm sitting here and I'm watching and I'm trying to imagine someone putting this on and I'm thinking about that smell and I'm wondering how did you guys process that in a way where, was it the urine that kind of neutralized it or?
Yeah, the urine neutralize it. And I have my family used that too as well. My brothers and I, 7 of us, we pee into a bucket, and with that has the intestine. And we didn't think any of it. It was like we're just helping mom, And but one time I went hunting with my dad, and those few moments, being the youngest of the family, they try to baby me, and I just end up like, I'm not a baby anymore, I'm a big boy. They would say like, well, you're too young yet, you're too young. And there's like, come on, I want to go hunting with you guys, I'm a big boy too. And finally my dad took me out one time, and I was so really happy. We didn't catch that day, but it was nice to be with him. And I was actually getting cold, I was getting chilled. He noticed I was shaking a little. He goes, and he said, because he only spoke Yupik, he said, are you cold? I said, yeah. So he carefully rolls out the seal intestine raincoat, and he dips it into the water, the ocean for a little bit just to get it pliable. And then he pulls it over me. 15 minutes later, I had to take it off because I was burning up. It's very thin, but that's the one that our mom made that. So, yeah, they're very, and it didn't smell because that urine took care of the smell and neutralized it. And also, did you guys know that you can use urine as a medicine too? Especially for 2-year-olds, before they reach 2 years old. I heard that you can drink it and it'll help you for some, but also if you have eczema, because the child that young, they're pure, they're innocent, they have an innocence about them. So they put them, soak them in that urine for a while, and takes care of the eczema. So if you have friends and family that have that problem, try that. It doesn't. It won't kill them. It won't harm them. Something to try.
Any more questions, folks?
Ossie, do you know anything more about going underwater and breathing in that bubble? Remember the bubble you were talking about? The air bubble?
The air bubble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know anything more about that? That's just fascinating.
It creates this air cavity. Just creates this air cavity where you can. He said you can breathe like you and I are breathing right now. I was just playing it in my hand, and that's when I was like. Yes.
How long would he be riding, or anyone riding a whale? How long does this take?
You'll have to ask the individual who does that. I would assume maybe half hour at the least, if not more.
I just want to say 30 years of performing with this guy. Today is actually our 30th anniversary. To hear a couple stories I've never heard is a blessing. Thank you. I'm the same way. I'm like blown away right now.
Yeah.
I was really surprised that this school year my son came home from school and said to me that he had heard that the whales don't have to come close enough to shore to be hunted. And they're really intelligent creatures.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're choosing to come within range of where people can go. And how... when he told me that, like, I've been thinking about that. Maybe not every day for a month, but I've been thinking about that a lot. Like the choices that the animals make in their relationships with humans.
Yeah, it's about that relationship. That's how I look at the whole perspective. Is that relationship from the ecosystem, is to maintain that. I had a funny, this is kind of funny. On one of our many travels, we met this Indian girl. And she was Aassanaaq, and she was a vegetarian, of all people. And we were eating at her grandma's house with her mom and her other family, and she made this snooty remark that I'm not going to eat anything with a face referring to the meat. And I took the opportunity and said, "Hey, sister, check this, listen. Where I come from, we believe everything has a face, and it's called spirit, whether it's living or not. So whether you want to accept this or not, those potatoes you're eating, there's faces in them." And there was this really tense, uncomfortable silence. Her grandma was like, and tried to keep a straight face, and then her mom was like, waiting for her response, and it was like a longest 3 minutes. And her only response was, "That was a good one." So, right there.
So I too am taken with and struck by the story of riding the whale. And was that like, what species, what kind of whale was
Bowhead.
that? So that was a bowhead whale?
Yeah.
Like, so you wouldn't, with a beluga, they hurt them or whatever. So
They're much easier to kill than
Yeah.
the bowheads.
But that was the bowhead. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
Ossie, thank you so much for coming. I wanted to just show folks the other photographs that we have of the other whaling suit. You saw the one that we have on display.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Right.
I need a password.
Oh, no.
No, you should use the clicker there.
Okay. Can...
No?
Right here.
Oh, there we go. So that's the potentially more contemporary one. Can you click again? This is over at the Sheldon Jackson Museum. It's kind of a model. It's thought to be about 12 inches tall, maybe 20 inches tall. And you can see there on the right-hand side is the whaling suit. The gut parka is on the left there, and then the winter tan gut parka is below. So that's in a drawer over at the Sheldon Jackson Museum. And then click again, please. Oh, this is an image that is actually at the University of Fairbanks, I think. And we don't know much about this image, but clearly the man who is in the whale working, flensing, and has something hanging from his mouth, that's pretty spectacular, is wearing a whaling suit. But we were looking at that the other day, and Ellen looked pretty closely and said, I think he's not the only one in that photograph wearing one of these whaling suits. There may be up to 4 whaling suits being used in that photograph.
When is this picture?
No. And click again if you would. And this is the spectacular one from Greenland. It's in the National Museum of Denmark right now. Recently went on display at the British Museum. They were doing a show about the Arctic and technology in the Arctic and climate change. So they borrowed this, and pretty spectacular. I guess you would climb in from the chest. What do you think, Ossie?
Yeah. Yep.
Watertight. This one and the one here at the State Museum have really articulated soles of the feet. Anyway, wanted to walk you through those photographs.
Great.
Thanks everybody for coming tonight. Ossie, can't thank you enough. Really grateful for you, and grateful that you ran into Ellen, and Ellen was so excited about meeting you about 1.5 years ago that she came back from that meeting saying, you guys, there's this guy. So thank you so much for
You're
coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.